Strike at transport utility Transnet finally came to a close yesterday, just before the third week was up. Looking at the scenario, unions had initially asked for a 15% wage hike, subsequently scaled down to 13%, whereas management had offered 8%. Now, last week, some resolutions surfaced with the major union at Transnet, the United Transport and Allied Workers Union, accepting a revised offer of 11%, but the smaller South African Transport and Allied Workers Union, Satawu, rejected that tentative agreement only yesterday, accepting the same 11%, but with an additional 1% once-off payment on the total annual salary package. To run us through where this leaves Transnet now, Transnet's Human Resources Director Pradeep Maharaj joins us in studio. Thanks so much, Pradeep, for joining us today. Well, admittedly, at the start of the week, it didn't sound like we were going to get any resolution with members of Satawu. What was it that eventually saw the deal being struck at the same 11% that two members accepted last week?
We had provided an incentive for the workers to return to work. The 1% once-off payment, which is going to be made in June, was the thing that swung the deal. In any strike, at some point you have to settle. You cannot go on forever, and you had to find some way of settling the strike.
Well, questions were being raised this week about how far the Satawu members would be able to push Transnet, because we've of course got the World Cup around the corner. Timing of this entire strike not completely unexpected. We've also had calls for a solidarity strike getting louder, and many companies already declaring force majeure because goods were just not getting delivered. So how much of a choice did Transnet have in not caving in?
We've stood very firm on the 11%, and we haven't moved. And that 11% we had tabled before the strike started, in an effort to try and avert the strike. Throughout the process, we've continued to maintain our position in that. Yes, there was pressure from the World Cup. The real pressure for us, though, is 3 weeks of strike has a huge impact on our business, has a huge impact on our customers. And as I said, in a strike, there's no winners. Yeah. All of us go away losers. It's a point of saying, let's get around the table, let's continue to talk, and let's find a solution to this.
And reach that compromise. So if we look at the effect the strike has had over the past 3 weeks, I mean, how much has it cost the economy? We've had Busa putting out a figure saying that we could have well seen this cost the economy about 7 billion rand.
We have not done any studies on the impact of the strike, even on our business. We'll only be able to have a better sense of that when we produce our half-year results. By that time, we'll have cleared all of the backlogs that have built up in the system. Any calculation of the impact of the strike on the economy becomes a fairly wild guesstimate. There's no accurate way of calculating that.
Well, what plans are in place to deal now with the backlog of deliveries of goods that have been standing still, and how long before everything is completely back on track?
Throughout the strike, we will always maintain about a 40 to 45% attendance at our workplace. That has helped us move critical commodities. In the port sector, especially in the containers, specifically Durban Harbour, we do have 6 ships in port that we are currently working, 10 awaiting discharge and loading. We believe that given the next 6 to 8 weeks, that's how long it will take us to clear the backlogs.
Well, certainly it's going to be a bit of a tough and busy road ahead. In the meantime, as a result of these higher wage settlements now, a figure that's been thrown out there is 11.2%, an additional 1 billion rand on company costs via the wage bill. Is that what Transnet is roughly looking at? I know that you've said, costs haven't been tabled yet, but looking forward, I mean, this has to have been taken into consideration.
Yes, our budgets did provide for an element of wage increases. The 11.2% total cost to company that we finally settled at, which includes a new medical aid dispensation, which was a separate dispute that we then resolved in this dispute itself, will cost us in excess of 1 billion rands. Our plans are that none of this gets passed on to our customers. Our tariffs were set in 2 of our businesses by the regulator. So those tariffs are set by regulators. In the other elements of our business, we don't have the luxury of being able to reduce or increase our tariffs dramatically. We have an agreement with our shareholder around that's contained in the shareholder compact, which limits how much we can increase prices by. So what this has to be paid through is other cost-cutting measures.
Yeah.
But the key is going to be productivity.
Yeah.
If we can get increased productivity, then the higher wage is offset by that.
With that being the case, because I mean the initial fear was, what this would spell for freight costs and how soon, we'd actually start seeing that filtered through. So you've answered that. How at risk then is a Transnet of actually hitting budgetary targets moving forward?
That's going to be the key. When we went into the strike, we had a recovery plan. We have now activated those recovery plans, and we have galvanized all of our energies to ensure that the targets we've set ourselves for the year, that is included in the shareholder compact, is met. And we've now got a plan to the 30th of September, which is our half year, to ensure that we meet our volume targets, our productivity targets, and our cost targets.